Hello. How's everybody doing? We are here for yet another Anim Bingo night of fun and exuberance. We are going to be getting through more of the animations from the Anim Challenge from back in February. We are changing the format up a little bit, so this probably, hopefully, will not be anywhere close to 2 hours. It'll be a little bit shorter. So if that's the case, then I would imagine what Veronica and Tabitha are going to need to do is probably make a few more calls per animation so we can get some bingos. Just because we want to make sure that these things don't go super long like they did the last time we did this, because they got a little bit epic on the occasion. So we have about, I think, 7 of them to go through as a target tonight. So that's a pretty decent number. Which means that we can give ourselves a little bit more time than 5 minutes as well. Jacob and I will be able to dig a little deeper on these and take our time a little bit more. So maybe like 7 minutes or something like that, because that should put us in pretty good shape time-wise. So I think you all know the drill by now. We'll end up just pay attention in chat, because in chat we will have a link for you to use to get the card generated for bingo. I see people are just still kind of rolling in here, so I'm gonna kind of slow things down to give people a little bit of time to generate that card. But even if they show up late, if you see someone showing up late and they want to play bingo, then just let them know to kind of maybe look up back in chat for the link to the link to the bingo. I can't remember, it's Bingo Baker, I think, the Bingo Baker link to make that card. Okay, so I just need to check one more thing before I bring Jacob over. Let me just hold on a second. Okay, good. All right, so let's bring Jacob in, and we can kind of get things all ready and go. I think Veronica said it was all ready too in the background. She did. Okay, good. She's amazing. Tabitha and Veronica are superheroes. Okay, so here we go. Jacob Bohm in the house. Hello, Jacob.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm not doing too bad on this fine evening. I got I got stuck in the arm today because I'm old. And apparently I qualify in Canada as being old enough for a vaccine because I'm fragile or something. So that happened today. I haven't, I don't want to jinx myself. I'm going to knock on wood and hope that I don't go through the same misery that some people have. I usually do well with vaccines. But I know some people who don't, and they just react kind of like they have a really bad cold, or they get like kind of almost like a small allergic reaction. So I usually just get a really sore arm.
Well, my wife did not react well, but for me, it was pretty fine. It was just a slight soreness for a couple hours. But
that's usually how I am too. Oh, that's good. Christine, my wife, she has a theory. She wonders if the reaction could maybe coincide with people that might have gotten kind of like had at least symptoms if you got COVID. You know what I mean? Like the theory kind of checks out in a way, like, as you are kind of being injected with a kind of like a dormant version of the virus, right? So theoretically, your body's reacting, but not obviously in such a severe way because it can't replicate. So your body doesn't freak out, but it still needs to fight against it. So anyways, I don't want to turn this whole thing into a COVID conversation, but that's my big news for today. What about you? What happened to you today that was so exciting? Anything?
No, nothing exciting. Just putting out fires on all the different projects that we have going on, and it's never a dull moment. Let's put it that way.
How many are you on right now? How many projects?
4.
Oh my god.
Which is pretty good, actually. There was a time where it was like 6 or 7. Yes. Yeah. So 4 is good.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's crazy. I find that what's interesting about, like, when you're supervising like you do, the tricky part is when you have more than one, there's like a mental load that, like, just because you're only working, let's say 10 hours or 15 hours per project per week, that it's not like you stop thinking about it after those 15 hours. You know what I mean? It's not like Slack just disappears. People are going to still ask you questions that you feel like you should definitely be answering. It's like Slack to me is like just a nexus. It's like I get sucked in, and there's so many different conversations at the same time. So yeah, it's exhausting no matter what way you look at it when you have more than one thing going on at the same time. So
true.
I feel
Plus, Yeah, plus artists working in all different time zones.
Yeah,
That people
that'll
are
do it.
coming on to start working at all different times of day,
That'll
and
do
then
it.
they have
Yeah,
questions that need to be answered, or
they
they're
do.
blocked. Right, you
That's
got to
it.
get to it.
Blocked people are not good, especially when
I
you're the one that's
try,
supposed to be making sure that doesn't
yeah,
happen.
I try as hard as I can to try and make it like this shoebox on this shelf is where I have all this information
Yeah.
about this project, and I just
Yeah,
put it away and close the lid
Yeah.
when I'm not thinking about that project, but it doesn't work. It all just spills
No,
out the top, and
that's
it's
it.
all
It's
over the
hard,
shelf,
man.
and it's
That's
everywhere.
it.
Yeah.
I try to. I try to compartmentalize, and I try to make hours. Like I really try to be regimented on when I'm going to only do stuff on this day, and it's inevitable. And I think I'm not complaining because it's actually more because I'm excited about it more than anything else. But this stuff, the Agora stuff, it permeates throughout the entire week because it's just there's always something going on. So it's sort of that weaves into all my days. But it's certainly, like you said, never a dull moment. It keeps me on my toes, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, so let's get started here. I think it would be probably a good time to get a link out there, I guess. Veronica, should I be re-explaining? Because maybe I have some people that are new here tonight for the bingo, so maybe I should re-explain just in case. I should. Okay, so so the way this works is Veronica is going to be sending you a link in chat, or it may be Tabitha. I don't know. One of them is going to be sending a link in the actual chat, which you're going to want to click on, and it's going to bring you to a page. You want to enter your name. Now, make sure that you enter the name that you are actually using in chat here. Okay, because we're going to need to be able to match the two if you claim a bingo. So please do just double check your chat name currently in whatever platform you're using, and make sure you name your bingo card with the same name. It's going to help us out a lot. Once you put that name in, it's going to generate a card. And then what's going to happen is Jacob and I are just going to start digging into these animations and just talking about them. And inevitably what's going to happen is we're going to be saying some terms, common terms that we usually use when we're describing animation or giving some constructive criticism on animation. And when Tabitha and Veronica hear those terms, they're going to make official calls. It'll be like Veronica is officially our bingo god. She'll be summoned after each animation is reviewed, and she's going to reveal to us what terms are actually going to be officially called for that round. So, like I said, with fewer animations, I think we'll probably end up getting away with probably calling a few more of those terms where applicable per animation, just to make sure we have enough terms out there to call a bingo. If you win a bingo, we changed the rules about halfway through doing these because it was getting to the point where T-shirts were going to start piling up, and we were going to have be sending out millions of T-shirts. So we decided to make it a little bit trickier and a little bit more competitive. So if you win, and it was actually truly the real problem was we were trying to address the fact that some of you, like crab nuts, if you're out there. Some of you are just have rabbit's foots embedded somewhere surgically inside you, and you are able to procure more than one bingo every single time you show up. And so it was like, what do we do with people that have multiple bingos? So we scale it now. If you win one bingo, we'll send you a really cool sticker, an Ultimate Anim Challenge sticker. And if you get two, then you'll get you'll get a sticker and a T-shirt, because I think they come from the same place, if I'm not mistaken. Veronica, am I right? Is it a sticker and a shirt if you get two bingos? I think it is. I'm waiting for the God of Bingo to. Yes, it is. That's what's going to happen. So the God of Bingo has spoken. It is a sticker and a T-shirt. And if you win three, then I don't know. We're going to have to figure something out. But that hasn't happened yet. I think it's only been a two. But I'm sure Crabnuts has come very, very close a couple times on getting three, knowing his luck factor. Okay, I think that pretty much says all the things. If you win three, you get a high five at CTN. Oh, that's a good one. That's assuming that we ever have CTN again. Maybe it'll be a virtual high five this year. From who? Exactly. Good question, Tabitha. I'm only one seeing this chat, so I'm reacting to things you guys don't see. Okay, so let's get this show on the road. We good. Man. Of course, right after I explain, then there's an avalanche of people showing up. Really quick recap. The most important thing you need to know, if you've been here before, you understand how this is done. Jacob and I are going to be digging into these animations. We're going to be giving a bunch of feedback. Those feedbacks will translate through the filter that is the Veronica, the bingo animation bingo god, and Tabitha, the animation bingo demigod. I don't know if there's an actual hierarchy there. Maybe they're both gods. I don't know, but between the two of them, they'll work it out, and there's going to be some official calls made based on a card that you're going to be able to make, and you'll make that card using. I don't know if did it go up yet, the chat. It did.
Yeah,
so
the link
you'll
is
use
out
that,
there.
use that. But the most important thing you need to know is please name your, when you ask you for your name, use the name that you're using in chat. That's going to help us identify you a little easier. Okay. So if you have questions about this, just ask them in chat. Tabitha's going to hook you up. But otherwise, Jacob and I are going to get the show on the road. Sound good? Oh, one other thing you're going to notice is I'm going to keep us timed. Usually it would be 5 minutes per, but I think we're going to make it a little bit flexible, somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes. I'll have a little bit of wiggle room there. But if we get done early, then that's great. We want to make sure we have some animations to go through with the Pratt brothers, as well as a JD and Sir Wade on their sequel performances here as well. All right, let's go. Jacob, do you want to drive?
Let's do it.
Sure I guess I have to bring it up here, don't I? Let me just put us over here. And I'll bring up your sync sketch. There it is. All right.
All right. You ready?
I'm so ready. Let's do it.
Should we call out who this is?
Oh, yeah, good idea. This is what?
MB, is that the name of the team? And it was a solo?
Solo, yeah.
MB0 solo. Okay. All right, here we go.
I love this rig. It really looks legit.
It's cool.
Yeah. Cool. Lots of stuff going on here. It's a solo, obviously. So this person did this all on their own. I really love the, here, I'll hit the play button so we can get the timer going. Do you want to go?
Did you want to share the timer?
I thought, oh yeah, it's not shared. Good idea. I'll put that right there. And let's do,
just to create some tension.
Yes,
That's the clock.
I'm starting to sweat.
Okay,
you go first.
Yeah.
You go
no,
first.
No, you go first. No, do it.
Okay,
do
fine.
it.
So one thing I really love here, I mean, there's lots going on here that I like a lot. Lots of cool dynamic moments. I really love how you're really emphasizing poses, and you kind of have a bit of a stylized feeling to it, like that whole grab and then you stay in that kind of heroic looking pose. These are all very nice things, and it kind of adds a certain level of graphic quality to the animation, which is great. I would say that some of those poses could be better. I'm trying to read Jacob's mind, but I think some of the silhouettes could be a little bit better on them, which I'm sure we'll get into. But what I did want to talk about really quickly is the effects. I don't know if they were done like a 2D, like After Effects afterwards or what, but they have this very nice kind of anime feel to them, like really cool looking. Those like electric effects are really well done, I thought. So that's my first comment. Jacob, your turn.
Yeah, I agree. I was also going to comment on the dynamic quality of the camera. I think it's cool how it's not just a bunch of static cameras. Like there's this first one, it starts off very static, so it's getting this kind of calmness before the storm, and then right here it does the punch in, and then here it's the camera's moving with the actions that are happening here, and then on this one, of course, he's rising up and the camera follows him up to find the planet. So I think the dynamic quality of the cameras are really fun.
Yep.
It wouldn't be the same work if it was a bunch of static cameras. I think that really adds to it.
Definitely not. Because the camera is so close to the action too. Like, so like it's super important. Like the camera really becomes kind of a character in the short itself in many ways.
Yeah.
I agree. So what about these poses? So let me go into some of them. I want to do, let's stop it. We can kind of dig in here. I'll take a look at this one. So I mean, this is pretty cool. Like it's very easily readable because you have a pretty good silhouette here, right? I don't have my pen out, so I'm going to be doing some mouse drawing here today. So please do.
Ooh, fun mouse drawing. Awesome.
Yeah, that's always good. I think it could still be a bit better because whenever you have poses like this, where it just feels like, I think we call this like tangential growth, where like just parts of the body feel like they're like coming out of the chest, as opposed to like, you could have maybe tried to get this so like the shoulder is a bit more involved, kind of have the arm back here like this, like really kind of cock that arm back there. It's all about pushing them, right? I mean, if Alex was here, he would talk about pushing the pose and taking something that's already good. It already tells the story, but how can you take what's there and even push it even further? Incorporate more things and more tilt and more angle and just to kind of characterize the pose a little bit. I'd say something similar over here. This one's pretty good, but like maybe, you know, like I like how we can read this angle, like the fact you kind of go through, you know, three quarter, you start to see a kind of a silhouette that feels kind of like this. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe that you could have done something a bit more interesting with this arm down here, for instance, instead of having it just sort of a little fist that's like kind of, I would almost maybe not have it there, or have that arm kind of back here or something like that, like to kind of create a bit more of an interesting looking silhouette. I'm sure you have a lot of notes on this.
I was going to say a bunch of similar things. Maybe could I go over the same things but explain it in a different way? Because sometimes
that's a great idea. Maybe do a better job drawing too. Yeah.
Well, I can't guarantee
No
that.
pressure.
I do have a pen, but that does not mean the drawings will be any better than with a mouse.
We'll see. We'll see.
So something that struck me on this one was the drag on the arm and having it drag like directly to camera space, and as opposed to, you know, this, it wouldn't make sense for the grab, but having in the camera a drag like this where it's flat to camera, you can tell what's going on, but a drag like this, you can't really tell because it's coming at camera.
Totally.
But so instead of having a drag, I might actually have it more leading with the, well, green's not going to be easy to see, is it? Leading with the wrist a little bit more, maybe, that he's, how's that for a pen drawing? That if you're doing that instead, and it's leading with the wrist instead of dragging the wrist behind, it's a much clearer pose, which is a lot similar to what, or it was similar to what you were saying with getting the shoulder involved and not having it kind of hidden behind his chest here, with this just kind of growing out from his chest.
Exactly.
But being able to see the whole thing there. And even here, then it could also be like this as well. Where that's,
like I think straights are all like arms, like a straight line is not a very dynamic pose, right? Like if you can try to create some C curves whenever possible, you're always going to have something more interesting to look at with regards to silhouette. So when you only have the forearm sticking out, then it's really hard to get a C. So,
and I do always like connecting the arm through the chest, like the arms. Rather, the shoulders across the chest. So this is working well here. And I like this kind of contrapposto of the head being tilted the other way against the chest. That's cool.
It is very cool.
Go back here, and this is also working here. So the head actually switches angles across that grab, which is really cool.
Yep.
I love that.
I really agree with that comment about the screen space thing. I think it's like a common mistake I see a lot. Well, it's not really a mistake. It's really just like it's something that we see a lot that you always would
could
make
be
it a lot
clarified.
better. It could be clarified, exactly, because the brain really has a hard time reading movement when it's scale. Because at the end of the day, when something's moving right at the camera, that movement really is in screen space, something just getting bigger or smaller, as opposed to when we can really read, like you said, in a kind of a horizontal sort of space on screen. It's much easier to see movement that way. So it's everything's going to feel a lot more dynamic if you can get it moving across screen space as opposed to forward and back.
Totally. Yeah. And then going into this one, a lot of what you said was exactly what I was thinking. I would also worry about this tangent here of the object with his chin, and either go further and make it like it's like this right up next to his eyes, and he's like looking right at it, or go further away from that idea and make it more down here instead.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just about clarity, right? Like if you squint your eyes, can you make out the pose? Is it legible? If not, then maybe you can do better. Usually, you know, it's all about balancing positive and negative space. When everything is all clustered together, you don't see any negative space pockets, then that's a good sign that there's maybe not a very clear silhouette, because everything's overlapping one another. You can always make it better. Almost every single time when you look at a pose and just challenge yourself on that level, you'll usually be able to push something and make it better almost every single time.
Yep. And I was going to suggest here, having him look at it would help the audience look at it too. If we see a character looking at something, we're going to look at that as well. Right now, he's kind of looking off into space, although it looks like he's shooting laser beams into it at the moment. And then, like you said, getting rid of this hand over here would help on this new pose that I drew as well. If this is over here, you wouldn't want this there. Yeah,
it's because it ends up being too busy down there. I think that the thing too is, I love this idea of the direction of the eyes, because maybe you do both. Like maybe he kind of snatches it and he kind of looks at it kind of like, you know, with this this hunger almost, and then he might look up and like almost to anticipate and foreshadow what's about to happen next. But I agree, never connecting with that thing that seems so important in his hand seems weird, and it doesn't really emphasize the importance of the thing he just picked up. It's very cool though.
Hey, we're 7:40.
Yep, I think it's perfect time. So I don't have a gong, unfortunately. I know everyone loves the gong. I know, it's because I'm not going to get into it, but
No excuses.
The gong will be back on the next one. Sorry, Jacob gets the crappy version of the bingo tonight. So I'm just going to go. I'll do sound effects. There we go. Sounded like heavy breathing. It wasn't really that good. Here she comes. Veronica has been summoned.
I return more powerful than ever.
It's all because of the amazing sound effects that I had. I've played a Dr. Frankenstein on our God of Bingo, and now she's some sort of cackling witch. I love it. Tell us,
Okay.
oh wise one of Bingo, please tell us what are the official calls for this one?
Okay, before I do the official calls, I just want to make sure people know in the chat first that nothing's been called yet.
Oh yeah.
So anybody getting to this, we're doing the calls now. If you've already
Yep.
marked something on your card, you got to take it off. No
Yep.
cheating.
No
So-
cheating.
What we're going to be calling is first, You've Got Style for those awesome special effects. Clear Staging for the awesome camera work. But where is it? Issues with Silhouette for some of the posing.
Yep.
So those are the first three out of the gate.
The animation god, or the animation bingo god, has spoken. You all heard it. 3 calls. And she disappears in her puff of smoke. Goodbye, animation bingo god. Until next time. Okay, so I guess we can move on to the next one then. Let's do it.
All right.
Nice work, by the way, on this one. I really like it.
Yeah.
Very dynamic.
It's cool stuff.
Okay, this one is it's emo. It's another solo.
All right. There we go.
I hate it when that happens. Okay, you get to go first on this one.
Okay, so I think the staging is great. I'm gonna start off with what I really like about it is that I think that having him exit frame and then slowly float past the camera or past the window is great comedy. That's good stuff. Exiting and entering frame is always funny.
It's so true. It always comes up in your reviews. It's like
it does. I like it. It's a good go-to.
It's
true. Fun.
It does work.
Mm-hmm. And then let's get into talking about just mechanics and weight and posing. I think one thing that would help a lot is this pose, the start pose, doesn't feel like he's comfortable in his own skin. And so that's something that I would definitely try to put in my own work is if I'm not sure where to start with the pose or just the shot in general, is that I start off by posing the character so that they feel heavy. Not necessarily depressed, like you can go heavy by having them feel like, oh, but also you could just have them feel comfortable by relaxing some more of the lines. Like his arm is very straight right here. His chest is like this. His head is very straight. If you just relax him a bit and make him feel comfortable in his own skin, that's a great starting point for improving some of the weight in the poses. What about you, Brent? I'll throw it to you first.
So I'll start with a comment about staging. I do agree the staging, the setup is good. It's built the sort of the into and then out of in a small comical beat and then the flyby in the background is definitely working. And I really feel like it is this whole thing. Like it's like the whole thing is building up to that nice gag at the end. So I do think you set it up quite nicely for that. One thing I will say though, and I've said this to people before, is try to always avoid whenever possible the written text. Try to tell the story visually. Like I think there's other ways
that comes up when
that.
I'm looking at stuff all the time too, is avoiding the written text.
It's just
you brought it up too.
It's just a crutch, right? Like it's considered, it's sometimes you have no way of avoiding it for sure. But like, I think that especially if you're animating something, you always want to like avoid it because you certainly don't want stuff like that on your demo reel. You want to be able to say, yeah. I mean, I can tell a story with motion and with emotion. I can tell it with the body language of these characters. It kind of keeps you honest just by saying, oh, the rule is no text. Well, then it makes you think. Kind of like, it gives you kind of a nice constraint that you have to use that is always going to come up with it. Just that constraint itself will generate all kinds of really cool ideas and solutions to that problem. I think another thing that also comes up a lot is this idea of unification. I always seem to come up with a different word every time I say this, but when you see the character, when you see, let me just drive this for a second here. Oh, I don't have access. I can't control it for some reason. Do you have to stop it for me to control it?
I'm not presenting.
Okay.
Do you want me to try refreshing?
Yeah, maybe I have to refresh. Oh, yeah, there it is. I'm fixed now. Weird. Okay. Okay, so I want you to notice these little things here. Notice how the hips are suspiciously uninvolved with all of the movement that's going on in the upper body. This would be physically impossible with these big muscular arms and his waist moving around. If you take a look, what often happens, even if an animator is looking at reference, sometimes they filter that out because sometimes it could be subtle. But subtle is not the same as not there. And I think that as in general, you want to always be thinking about the hips because it will be very obvious if they're static. And so whenever you're moving around, I want you to take a closer look. I would suggest that you, if you haven't already, try to shoot some reference that's like this, and then look at your hips in the reference. If you were to go through the same motions this character is, you're going to notice that when the character leans forward, the hips are going to go back. When the character leans back, the hips are going to move forward. There's sort of this constant counterbalance that's going on, this tug of war between the upper and lower bodies. And we do it automatically without thinking about it. Which is why probably as an animator sometimes takes a while to connect with this because it might not be something you're thinking about. You're thinking about, the arms. I'm going to pick up an object, so I need to use the arms. Luckily, what's good about this is you're also using the upper body. I see a lot of animations that will literally just use the arm and they don't even think to use the upper body. So you're already one step in the right direction, but you need to use the whole body in order to do these reaches. But one last note on this. This particular point, you are using the upper body, but notice how you use the upper body almost before, like it almost finishes and then you kind of move with the arm. There's kind of the segmentation that I'm seeing when you're moving the body parts around. The human body tends to move together in order, like in kind of like in concert, to be able to do things and to achieve the things that they want to be able to do. They don't tend to move in segmented ways like this, like move hip, then move spine, then move arm. It's sort of like they can cascade and overlap, and they do. And if without that overlap, things look a little bit stiff and robotic still, but they certainly don't just move individually. You need to kind of find a way of wrapping them up together and moving the whole body together.
Yeah. I drew that red line because to your point of the hips will go back when you lean forward. If they don't, he's going to fall over.
Yeah. Balance.
Right, he's going to fall over forward. You said that you always come up with a different word for that. Today you said unification. I'm curious, what are some of the other words that you've used to describe this?
I've called it what's the other one? Man, there's one that I always use and it became too much of a buzzword, so I've stopped saying it. It's something
Synergy.
you often use. That's the one. Oh, you and the buzzwords.
You're kidding.
That's the one.
I was joking.
Because the synergy is a word that people were using a lot for like describing how teams are like synergetic, and it became like a marketing buzzword. So, but yeah, synergy is one of the words I've used to describe it. There's so many different things, like working in concert. I said that one too at the end. The idea is they're all interconnected. You know, the interconnection of all these little bits and pieces, it's all being dispatched from your brain automatically. And these are things that you learn at quite a young age, is all these body parts. And, that's why kids when they're young, they're pretty awkward because they haven't figured it all out yet, and some people never, like me, I have never figured it. I'm all thumbs and I trip over myself on a regular basis, where there are other people that are much more agile, which is not difficult when compared to me. Do you have any more?
You're talking about? No, I think that covers it perfectly. I was going to say, you're talking about physically, like walking around, you trip over yourself because you haven't figured out everything is
that's
moving
it. Like,
together and needs to work
my
together.
brain has not figured out all the bits and pieces yet, and so my synergy is is on the lower end of the spectrum. Let's just put it that way. But cool. I muse a lot when I talk about these things about how watching, like, my daughter's 5, and I know you have young children as well. So having watched them go through this, because you don't remember when you're a kid. Like you don't have memories of like, man, walking was really hard to figure out. You know, like if you did, I think we'd be way more scarred as adults if we remembered all those things. But kids, like watching them from my perspective as an animator, I'm like, it's like a masterclass in watching just how they figure it out over time and how long that actually takes. It's fascinating for anyone else out there who has kids and have seen this happen in front of their eyes. It is definitely something to behold. Let me tell you, it's like sometimes I catch myself just staring at her and just being amazed, and she's like looking at me like, "Why are you looking at me like that, Dad?" And I'm like, "I'm just because I'm a weird guy. I don't know. You'll get it one day maybe when I teach you all about animation, if you ever let me bore you with that story." But
yeah, you're cataloging all that information about how those movements work with each other.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think so. I talk about I'm going to just digress slightly. The something I talk about with my students a lot is this.
Someone said a bit expensive making kids to study walk cycles. Yeah, it's quite a commitment.
It is. I'm playing the long game. 8. That's what I'm doing right now. Very long, very long game. I talk about how animators need to develop this insatiable desire to break things down in front of them, like to not just look at it on the surface value, but the surface level, but to really kind of think about all the implications and all the things that are happening under the surface there. And it's going to happen naturally because as you start digging into this stuff, you're going to start building an appreciation and a fascination for these things. I always say that the only disadvantage, the only thing to look out for is getting the cops called on you when you're like people watching at the mall, which I feel like has in times has. Yeah, I literally get turned into the creepy old guy now. I used to just be creepy dude, and now I'm creepy old dude, which is way worse. So just look out for that. You know, that's why it's always good to have a sketchbook, because then you're just like, hey man, I'm just just drawing. Nothing to see here. Move along. Okay, so I'm gonna gong it. Okay, ready? I don't know, that's my gong. Not very good. She's been summoned. Hello, animation bingo god.
Ready?
Hello.
Okay, so for this one, we already called clear staging, so we can't call that one again, but still kudos to this person for clear staging. The two that we're calling for this one would be some problematic body mechanics about the lack of, as Brent said, synergy, quote unquote. And also watch your balance. So those are the two for this one.
Good. I concur, animation bingo god. Okay, let's go on to the next one. We got a bunch more to do. We got this one's called the team name is Parrots, also a solo contribution.
All right, here we go.
Yep.
Daddy, what's that?
Well, that's a giant space potion.
This summer.
Daddy, what's that?
Well, that's a giant space potion.
This summer.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll I guess we'll take turns going first. So lots to talk about here. The thing that jumps out right away as my favorite thing about this is, again, staging. I think that there is a clear story here that is comical. It's got a good sense of timing. You have the person who did this has what is typically very difficult to develop. So you're lucky. You're blessed with a sense of comical timing, and the way that the shots that you chose to show in the way that you chose to show them is what makes it funny, right? Like in obviously the sound effects and like the the narration of this summer and all that, like all that is just, it's icing on the cake. But without
real quick.
Yeah.
Start the timer.
Oh geez, thank you. I knew I'd forget at some point. So the idea of visual language being leveraged here is definitely working for me. Like it just, like for instance, like just the build up here of like the way he gets isolated on camera here.
I was gonna talk about that too. That's cool.
It's cool, and I like how you did that without even cutting. I don't like the fact that she's still in the shot, to be honest. It's kind of not super clean, but again, the idea is there. I see where you're going with this. And then like just this this kind of rack this rack zoom thing that's happening here too is pretty cool. And it just overly dramatic and just funny. I don't know, I just really like it. It's simple but yet effective.
when the sound comes in with a super dramatic music, it's really funny.
Yeah, and it's funny too because we've heard that brrr, like that was like a thing in so many movies. Like, you know, was it Inception had that, and like Batman, one of the more recent Batmans had that, the one with Bane in it, like this big deep bass. That was like kind of you know, it was sort of par for the course for a while there in in cinema. So it's on the nose. I like it.
Very cool. I think and it's cool that so many of these so far have had really cool staging that we get to talk about, because I remember last time we gave a lot of notes about staging, so it's awesome to see ones here that we can talk about what's really working with them. One small thing with this, I would have just rotated her around so that she's facing him. I think that it seems odd to me that her chest is aligned away from camera, and I would make her more aimed towards center of camera. So that they're talking to each other. But I was going to say, this becomes so much about facial animation that we can definitely talk a little bit about facial animation in here. But
It's a giant space boat.
so it sounds like it could be a delay in my headphones or something, but it's not off that much to where this is really out of sync, I think.
Yeah.
So this is something that I love to talk about, and so might as well talk about it here, is this myth that goes around about putting all of your mouth shapes 2 frames ahead of the sound effects, or the sound of the speech. For some reason, that's kind of pervasive everywhere. All students seem to know this somehow. It's on blogs, and people keep perpetrating because it's wrong. Don't put your shapes 2 frames ahead of the sound. In fact, I've had people tell me that it's in The Illusion of Life. It's not. I've had people tell me it's in the Animator Survival Kit. It's not. In fact, I went there and looked it up to make sure, but he says that, I think the quote is, a disease cropped up where people started putting things 2 frames ahead. So just the wording of that lets you know that he did not agree with it.
That's interesting, because I've always put it about 1 frame ahead. I always felt like it looked better when I did that. And this is something that they taught at Sheridan, was like, may not be in a book, but maybe we can source it there. Maybe that's where it started, as some of these schools.
Maybe.
You
found patient zero. Sheridan school. But yeah, it's what he says is the true sync is to be on the same frame. But sometimes it can feel better to be a little bit earlier. But it shouldn't be a rule to always do 1 frame earlier or 2 frames earlier or something like that.
I think in the evidence is, if you watched an actual video of, like, if you were to record, if I were to record you talking right now and I went frame by frame, that's probably what I would see. I would be seeing faces, or like the shapes happening when I hear the sounds, typically, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I've also heard people say that it's because light travels faster than sound, which is true.
I'm guilty. I'm guilty of saying that.
Which is true, but it doesn't make any sense for why you would put the images 2 frames sooner than the sound, because if light already travels faster than sound, it's going to get to you before the sound gets to your ears. But then if you make the images even earlier, then it's going to be offsetting the problem even bigger, right?
Never thought of that. Well, but except you're looking at it on, if the animation's on a flat screen, right? So technically, it isn't like you if you want to simulate depth, I guess theoretically, if you're looking at something and you're trying to make it feel like it's atmospheric, then I guess that doesn't work like that. But I don't know.
Okay, well,
this is an interesting conversation. We can really dig into this.
So
just take over the whole conversation.
Sound travels at about 360 meters per second. I think.
Yeah,
if you are 1 meter away from me, then the delay would be what, 1/360th of a frame.
Yeah.
So not
a big delay. Yeah.
Not a big delay. Yeah. But if you were on a movie theater screen or across like a football field or something, and the screen was there, then we're talking about a much greater distance, and then there would be a reasonable discrepancy. But that's why movie theaters put speakers all the way around.
Right. No, but what I meant was, if the scene has a lot of depth, and the like the character is like, if we're pretending that we're looking through a portal and we're seeing a real scene on the other side, So that 2D screen translates into a 3D space, and you're simulating that. But of course, the counter argument is if the character is that far away that you're going to hear a delay on the actual sound, well, guess what? You're not going to see their lips moving. They're going to be too far away. So you're right back to the same point, right? They would be technically lip sync shots are close to the camera and therefore theoretically close to you as an audience member. And so the delay in the sound versus the video is negligible.
Right.
I would concur with you on that.
Cool.
Good topic, man. We could do like a whole lecture on this, because I think it'd be an interesting thing to just dissect, and also get people across the industry who feel like they're on different sides of the equation. Because guarantee you, I could easily dig up a bunch of people who feel very strongly the other side, and I've always been in the middle because I've found some scenes that I've done, like the way I animate is I animate to sync. 100%. And then what I do is I look at it, and if it looks good and it feels good, I'm like, okay. But if it feels off for some reason, I nudge it a frame. I don't know what it is. And again, it's because it was.
And that's exactly what they say in those books as well. What Frank and Ollie said, and they all say that do it on sync. And then if it feels a little better to move one or two shapes a little earlier, then that's what you do. But it's not a rule to do 2 frames earlier or anything.
No,
like that.
if you're blindly like syncing like that, then like you never even get to see what it looks like natively in sync. And so it should be like more of an adjustment. It's like a trick that you can try that sometimes makes it feel a little bit more fluid. And
you watch it back and you're like, oh, that. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say you watch it back and you're like, oh, that P feels like it's popping a little too late, so you just move it back a frame and earlier a frame.
Well, that's a good point too, because it's like rather than just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, don't take all of them and shift them. You might want to just zero in on the areas that feel a little bit soft or a little bit late, and then just tweak it. But the idea is always remember, it's easier to sync, like to animate to sync, and then take a step back and watch it, and then make changes relative to that, rather than just assume that everything needs a global offset, because that's a recipe for probably disaster.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And to
little golden nugget that showed up on this one.
Yes, that's cool. And to clarify one other thing, one part of that I think gets latched onto and used is that because Richard Williams and Frank and Ollie were mostly animating on 2s, you would end up with the sound happening on a frame that you weren't going to make a new pose. And so then the discussion becomes, do you do it later or earlier? And it's always earlier. And so then that part of the conversation gets expanded into like, you always want to be earlier.
Yeah, that's it. It sounds like it's reinforcing that myth, right? And then it's like, it's not, they're not saying the same thing exactly.
Right.
Like they'll hear what they want to hear, and it reinforces this idea when it's actually, that's a conditional thing as opposed to being a global rule in general. Man, this is a great conversation. I honestly really do think we should talk about this like in like a lecture series. So
I love it.
We're already out of time on this one, but there are a couple other quick things I wanted to say just real fast. One of the things would be, again, this idea of synergy. I feel like we have a bit of an issue here. I do like this idea of isolating almost like it's only happening here on the face, but it's a bit, I mean, this is a matter of taste in my mind. But I really feel like this would be served a bit better if you could, like when you're delivering dialogue, there's like little things that are happening, assuming that you're not going for like this very limited style of animation, and you're intentionally holding, characters' poses completely and only animating the face. Usually, in 3D, we usually kind of move a little bit more of the things, and you could do this to exaggerate the impact. Like, when you're saying something, be like, it's a giant space potion. Like, you can use the body progressively over that dialogue to help reinforce how the character's feeling, rather than trying to do it all with the face. You can use the shoulders and use other parts of the body, even if it's subtle, even if pixels are just barely moving. It's better than just like literally. And again, this is subjective, because I would be negligent to not say that I've seen in like motion picture films that they'll occasionally choose for impact that they literally do freeze the body for whatever reason. And it kind of makes sense here because he's in shock, so I'm on the fence here. Normally I still try to get some things moving a little bit so there's a life to them, but there is a precedent for trying to break that rule a little bit for dramatic impact. There's
if I could add one more
body
thing,
mechanics here too at the beginning. Go ahead.
If I could add one other thing on this one before we call it off, is that because the lid is touching the iris here, it gives the impression that this eye is looking more this direction than this one is. And since you have whites on both sides of the iris here, it looks like it's looking more in line with his nose. I guess.
Classic.
And so the eyes feel like they're doing two different things.
Yeah. And this came up in a review that actually ended up being a little quick tip. I talked about like balancing the whites on either eyes. You have to always remember that there are spherical objects that are in here, and then the shape. There is obviously a different shape of the eye, the cutout of the eye or the eyelids. The orifice, as it were, of the eye is a bit different on the inside of the eye as the outside of the eye, and everyone's got a different, slightly different shape to their face, and therefore their eyes as well. There's a general sort of set of rules with eyes, but like for the most part, yeah, like this is too big of a difference. Like it just feels like there's no way to avoid that not feeling like it's a little crossed, because it just, when looking at it in comparison to this other eye, that lack of white here just sends that signal, because it's just so easy to see, especially on a front shot like this. Feels weird. Okay, I'll do the gong. This time I'm gonna do a tapping noise.
Oh, that's not good.
That's not good. It's too loud.
No, it's too weak.
Oh,
you need something big and like powerful for the god of animation to
okay.
come in, or the god of bingo, or
Okay, hold on.
God of bingo, I summon thee. Please arrive.
It worked.
I have returned.
is much better.
The first summoning was not enough, Brent.
I'm gonna have to up my game every single time now. Jacob's created this precedent now. Now I have to somehow light my building on fire by the time I get to the end of this bingo session. The only way she'll come, Brent, is if you sacrifice a small animal and also jump off of the CN Tower while holding grapes. Okay, here we go. Go
I
ahead.
mean, if
You're
you
being
dab,
specific, but okay.
If you dab, that works too.
Dab, yeah, that always works. It's the
Okay.
powerful. The powerful.
So here's what we got. For this one, excellent storytelling, really fun. Also to combo with the excellent storytelling, great timing for the comedic timing. And I didn't really have a square which said debunking a common lip sync myth. So let's just go with missing or understated expressions.
Add one for next time.
Okay. We'll fix
Add
it.
that square. Debunking myths. Yeah.
We'll totally fix that in post. Okay, awesome. Next one up.
One quick thing is I think people might start getting bingos now. So folks,
Joanna
if you get bingos, put it in chat and get
Yep.
your card number and put it in chat, and Tabitha in the chat will get you guys sorted.
Yeah, you need to. There's a kind of a code that's associated with your bingo card.
Yes.
It'll think it'll be like a 6-digit code, I think. It may look longer. If it looks longer, it's okay. Paste the whole thing, because we know which numbers in that are the important ones. Just paste it right there in chat, and we'll be able to confirm a bingo. Jacob and I are going to move forward, because Tabitha, Animation Bingo God number 2, is going to be handling the validation. Okay, so this next one,
here we go.
Team CIA Age. Oh wait, hold. There's a more
Agents.
of that. Oh, agents. Mine's there's a ... and then T. Okay, there it is. Let's go.
All right.
Oh, I remember this one. I'm such a sucker for the 2D ones. I think these just didn't get rendered.
Yeah. A couple play blasts in there, maybe.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't think we're gonna play this one again because it'll take too long. But there's a lot going on there. I mean, you get the first jab on this one, so I'll come in after you. What you have to say?
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I think I get the general gist of the story, I think, but I'm lost on a couple of places.
Me too.
So I think that a good trim might be in order. Like maybe you don't need this shot, or maybe you need to cut half of this shot so that it keeps the pacing moving. Instead of hanging on it for too long. I love the Pong T-pose joke. I always love a good T-pose joke. That's really fun. The aerial view of that. It's another case of I think we saw one of these last time where it was like it starts off like you can tell that they put a lot of effort in, and then as the shots go on, it's almost like in chronological order. And we're running out of more and more time, and so the shots by the end almost don't make sense because you just didn't have time to put into it. And so a balancing of like if you had trimmed stuff and been able to put the same quality, the same level of detail into every shot, so it feels more uniform, instead of having so much detail in these first couple shots, it might just make everything feel like it's working together better. That was my first impression.
I wholeheartedly second that opinion, especially with regards to scope. I mean, it's a 24-hour challenge, and it just feels like, you know, that you just bit off more than you should have tried to chew. Like just a lot. Like this is long. It's noticeably much longer than most of the submissions. And I think that, you know, and you're probably just, you know, nodding right now while listening to me, you know, us both say this. It's easy for, you know, hindsight's 2020, right? It's I'm sure you felt like by the end of it, you're like, why did we not try to trim it up? And it just think, you know, maybe it was the process that you used, that you try to tell too complicated of a story. But I agree that there's, because of that, it starts to fall apart. And there's like, literally, it just gets to the point where I don't know at all. Like I get kind of the beginning, but then it just really falls apart towards the end. Like there's shots that don't even hook up properly. Like there's a shot of the devil character who's reaching out like he's getting close to it, and then the next shot he's out in the middle of space just swimming, and like there's not even a potion in the shot. Like there's like a flow that just kind of, it becomes discombobulated in sequence, you know. And again, I'm sure you agree, and it might be frustrating to hear this when you probably already know, but I just want to make sure that everyone else watching this can kind of learn something from just always remembering to be realistic with scope, because when you run out of time and you try to tell the story that's there, but it's got holes in it, and all the hard work you put in could sometimes be forgotten because people are too busy being confused and lost by the end of it, you know? So less is more, I think, especially in a 24-hour challenge, for sure. As far as like actual feedback is concerned, I think that like I really like this 2D stuff. I almost wish the whole thing was done in 2D because I really think it's great. You know, when I try to figure out the story, there's like this cute little character living on the planet. Then there's this big, huge, like godlike demon hand that slaps the earth and gets it spinning. And then there's this astronaut-like person who shows up. I don't know where he is in the equation. Is the other one the devil and this one's God? I don't know. But he comes over and then he kicks the earth. But what's weird is you can see
he's huge then, right?
Yeah, he's gigantic, I guess.
Massive.
But it's but this is the thing that like right here, I don't understand what's happening. Like the earth is spinning and wobbling, and then we cut to a shot that also has the earth in it. But is it the same earth? Because the earth that I just saw like literally frames ago was wobbling and spinning, and this earth is just floating in space. And we have a guy who's, I don't know, like is he close to the camera, and that in the earth is really big, and he's just normal size? Like this is always a tricky thing to sort of tell visually scale with regard, like you have to think of how can I communicate something like this, because right now then we zoom in really quick and then we come back out. Now suddenly he's really big. Or maybe that wasn't a zoom. Maybe that was him just growing really quick right here. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't think that's what it is, because the planet disappears, and it shouldn't disappear if he's scaling. You know what I mean? Like
the camera's moving towards him. Then?
Yeah. Like again, it's hard to know. I don't have enough, and it's hard in space, because if your only reference point is this Earth and him, it's like it's hard to know, is it the camera moving when both things you're playing with scale. So things get a little confusing, but then things get a little bit worse here when you start to kind of do this like the earth is missing here, and then the next time it shows up kind of randomly appears here, and it looks like he's at a slow motion moment of doing some sort of reverse kick. But then what's weird is it, because then the next shot is it, oh, I see. So it is. But I guess the problem is I'm not really reading the impact here. So you know, I think you would have needed to kind of follow through and show that foot is actually colliding with that sphere, and the sphere then gets some of that momentum from the foot. But because otherwise I don't really understand, is that the camera moving it again, or is it this? Anyways, I could go on. I think this is the problem. It's the visual language that you're suffering from the most here, and just the choices that were made are making it difficult to follow for, as you can see, a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But there's some great stuff at the same time, Like I agree with Jacob. Like there's some cool gags in here. I almost feel like, couldn't you maybe just found a way of just centering the whole film around this one gag, maybe, and that could have been maybe a little bit more on scope.
Yeah, and to point out that after he kicks it, it's spinning just in the center of the frame, so we don't know if it's moving or if it's just stuck in space spinning. But then when you cut to here, it's moving, and I think from here, this now becomes really clear.
Yes.
All of a sudden, I get it. Now I'm back in. I'm like, oh, that's what was
totally.
happening.
Yeah.
And this makes sense here. This is including all the information you need in this one shot. It's traveling towards him, and he bounces it back at the guy. I think all of this shot is super clear. And then you get into this joke, which at this point I'm understanding what's going on, and I think that this is working well. This is where I start to get lost then again.
Enter wrench number 2.
Right, the kitty drops a number of potions.
Yeah,
and then this guy was asleep.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
And I don't get this either. Like, what happened? Like a minute ago, they were playing Pong, and now one of those people playing Pong, it looks sort of tired or defeated, and he doesn't even have a helmet on anymore. I don't know where the helmet went. So yeah, again, another plot point that just makes me go, what? And so as I try to figure out what's going on, I get lost a little bit.
Yeah. I do think that this spin and like swimming is really cool. I think this is a fun idea that it passes by him and he's got to try to scramble himself to catch up in space.
Totally.
I don't think you need the cutaway because part of it is that it's, it's not connected. Like he's moving to reach to get it. And then here he's already got
Still
it.
frame. Yeah.
But that's just because of the time constraints, obviously, of a 24-hour challenge. 24-hour challenge. Then we get to this one. I almost got that. I think I didn't get it till the second watching of it, because now his helmet's back on again.
Yeah,
as that he can't actually drink it. For some reason, I didn't quite get that at first.
Yeah,
I assumed for some reason that he was drinking it. They just didn't take the time to put in the transfer of the liquid,
animate the fluid bouncing off the helmet.
I was trying to think of how I would sell it differently. Maybe it needs to be a staging thing where it's a little bit more turned to the side so you can see it hit the mask and bounce off, and that might help clarify that.
Yeah, it's almost like when you're planning a shot, you have to always remember, what is the message? What am I trying to tell the audience in this shot? Always boil it down to a message that will get transmitted to the audience, and then that's the metric that you use to measure your successful delivery of said message. Is you can look at it and go, are people going to get this? Like, would I get that? Or sometimes you even have to test it on people that aren't you, because it can be difficult when it's all in your head and you don't have, and again, with the 24-hour challenge, not like you had a lot of time to follow up and have people watch it and have a screening and take the notes. So, but that's normally how you would probably approach it. Like when you're working on a production, you can always tap another animator and be like, hey, does this make sense? Like, are you reading it the way it's supposed to? Like, what do you get when you look at this? Like, don't give them any hints. Just let them kind of come at you. And then if they can tell you within a certain margin of error pretty much what you're trying to say, then you give yourself a pat on the back. It's harder than it sounds, though. That's for sure. When you have a very specific, nuanced idea that you're trying to communicate, but that's part of the fun to this. It's like a puzzle, right? Can you solve the puzzle in the most elegant, time-efficient way possible? And time efficiency became kind of obviously king in a 24-hour challenge. So how can you be as direct to the point as possible with very little time? So
I see someone repeated the phrase I've never heard in my life. The kitty drops a number of potions. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Only here on Animation Bingo do you see such amazing quotes. Oh man, I often think of this, like if people were to hear some animation conversations like out of context, they'd be like, what is wrong with these people?
Oh, totally. Oh, and we have a confirmed bingo.
Oh, another one.
Congrats.
Is it Crabnuts? Is Crabnuts even here? This doesn't seem the right. Oh, he is here. Thank God. It wouldn't be the same without you, buddy. Okay, so we'll let you figure out the bingo.
Joe
situation.
Animates. Congrats, Joe Animates for the bingo.
What? He was the first one. You have a second one?
Well, then maybe I'm sorry, I missed the
you're just okay.
Time that I'm just catching up now. Sorry.
Got it.
Congrats
Jacob
again.
lives in the past. It's because we didn't, if we were to put him a couple frames before the video, then he would be properly timed with everything. You get it? See what I did there?
I love it.
That's like a dad joke. I don't know what my problem is. Okay, so I'm gonna
All
go.
right, let's bring in the God of Bingo.
And bring in the bingo god. Here we go. Ready?
Anim Bingo God, come to the office, please. Anim Bingo God, come to the office, please.
I'm putting my timesheets in when I'm supposed to. Okay, so for this one, we're going to be calling unclear narrative and staging issues. So those are the two.
Okay.
And if anybody gets any bingos, let us know in the chat.
Good
And I will
stuff.
poof back out of existence.
Poof. Okay, so let's go and do the next one. What's that?
Wait, Joe Animate says he's in Australia, so his mouth shapes are well in advance of everyone else's. Yeah, aren't you? You're like 17 hours in advance.
He lives in the future. I like that.
We won't even see the mouth shapes. They're that far in advance. All right, let's take a look. Cool.
Wow, all animated with 2D. It's pretty cool. I wonder what you used for this.
Like the software?
Yeah, I'm always curious what people are using
Curious
these
as
days.
well.
Like, it's got this sort of sketchy feel. Like,
Yeah, it's really cool. First of all, I have to say I'm jealous because I wish I could animate in 2D at all. I wish I could, but I can't. And it's awesome to see.
yeah, the 2D's always got this nice sort of like built-in character to it. You know, like it's hard to not have some sort of like it feels organic because it's been done by hand. And I really that moment there dropping through the fluid there is really cool. I really like that. It's got a nice feel. Like it feels the way it's just you can feel it. Like you can feel it feels like they're going into liquid, and the way that they slow down because of that viscous. It's very cool, and like the effects of the splash and everything. It's really well done. I like it a lot. It is. I don't. Is my turn to go first or yours? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I don't know. If you have something to say, go for it.
Okay. So
Let's start the timer.
Oh yeah. So the overall thing is pretty cool. I think that I get the basic idea. Like it looks like he hits some sort of eject button. I don't really know why. And then he ends up what's interesting is he's traveling. It looks like he's traveling above, like he looks like he's orbiting Earth and landing on Earth, but then ejects, and then the whole thing gets all trippy because he ejects, and then rather than landing in the ocean, he lands in what looks to be some sort of vial of some sort of +2 buffing potion. It's kind of abstract. I really like it. It feels trippy and dreamlike. I feel like that's what you were going for, and the 2D sort of treatment helps sort of somehow support that in my mind. It feels like something I would see from like the NFB, like this kind of cool artsy abstract sort of storytelling. I think that there's a lot of things that are going for you here. There's this one I think is the one moment that really sticks out is that it bugs me. Like out of everything is this moment right here, because it's just what you're doing is you're kind of positioning the character as if they want to be able to launch and jump off this chair. And you can see what's happening here is you have this big push frame here, this takeoff pose, right? For the squash, one frame into that takeoff pose, which is cool because it gives it a nice feeling of punch. But then it's this that bugs me. If with that amount of velocity shooting in this specific direction here, the next frame could never be this, because it's like it betrays the natural trajectory that you're essentially establishing at the moment of the takeoff, which is really key in my mind.
There's so much force going. Oops,
yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. You go ahead. You take over because
it's a really nice pose, and there's so much force going this way. That's cool.
But like, what?
But
how
then
can
for the next frame to be that? Yeah,
that's it. It's like it's that force that for one, the momentum is gone, and for two, it then shifts in a completely different direction vector wise, as opposed to following the next logical position for that next pose. You know, it also, you're going from one C curve to another C curve in one frame, which is also can be okay on an impact, but this is not really an impact moment. This is like it's cool to have, like, you do it here, crouch is got a C pose, and then you have a takeoff, which is the opposite C pose, which helps make it feel like there's a big force there, and it's awesome. But then the very next pose after that takeoff, I don't know.
Just to play devil's advocate.
Yep.
The way that I could see this, the argument for this, is that after leaving the chair from this crouched pose to get to here, if he and the chair are falling so rapidly that the up forces of the air would reverse his curve.
Yep.
And then he'd start falling like that, whereas now his limbs are dragging because of all that. But I could see how that argument could work.
No, but that works. I get that. I think that I would still expect to see a little bit of that horizontal continue, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
So
like, drag up is one
left.
thing. Yeah, but you still, it would be dragging, if it wandering upwards with the sort of idea of air resistance as you're falling, for sure. But like what's stopping the horizontal momentum to kind of like, it needs to at least continue for a few frames in my mind.
Fair point.
But you're not just going, you're like, it's all that horizontal disappears. And if anything, if you take a look at the waistline, it's like, it's right here. And then it actually is like back here. So like, if anything, it feels like it's actually kind of going back this way a little bit. So anyways, and again, if you were doing something fancy like this, you would probably need some sort of frame of reference, like something in the background to make me understand, like maybe there's some camera stuff going on here or something like that. Like the fact that I want to see that like the camera's panning downwards to keep up with the framing of the character in the chair, but the background's zipping like this, which would then signify, we are really falling really fast, as opposed to where this moment of the apex of the eject or something like that. Like, but yeah, I agree. You raise a really good point, but I think there's more information that needs to be there for me to know which way you were trying to go, which leads me to interpret one way and maybe someone else to interpret a completely different way.
Mm-hmm. True. And then if I could jump in with the staging for it, because that's something that I'm always looking at too, is that here he's traveling screen right to screen left.
Oh yeah.
And I felt like I got a little disoriented. Here it still works, screen right to screen left, and then now he's facing screen right.
Yeah, he jumped over his line.
Yeah, it jumped over, and so I got a little disoriented there. I wasn't quite sure where we were or what I was looking at. So it would be a simple fix that if you just reframe this so that this whole button console thing was on his left side and his head was over here instead, and just put the camera over here basically, and put those buttons off to his left, and that could help it.
Yeah, and once you establish those axis lines, it can really throw you off if you jump it without any real warning. I've always been told that one way you can get across that axis line, if you really need to, is to try to have a camera move across the axis line, because then you can at least perceive that there's that shift. But what's disorienting is when the camera then teleports to a different location that isn't on that same axis line. That's where things start to get a little bit weird. So all the vectors and all the orientations that your brain is sort of laying out in your head to kind of reconstruct the scene is suddenly being kind of like thrown on its head, and then it starts to feel like, oh, is he now going in a different direction? That's what your brain is starting to think because of the way that the rules work out. And so if you kind of ping-ponging back and forth, it can be super distracting for sure.
Yeah, I see the person who made this unprofessional animator says there's supposed to be text when he hits the button, but he forgot to add it when rendered. He taps eject, it says really ? And he punches it and it says okay.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, okay, but so
gotcha.
Cool. That's good. That's a good note. But it doesn't really. I don't see how that doesn't really connect with. And maybe this is completely sidebar what you're saying, just so people can see.
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That serves me right for trying to get caught up in chat after the fact. But so I mean, like I think there's so many cool things that are going on here. I really like this close up view of him, like, or I don't know if it's a he or she, getting ready to do the jump. Lots of cool things, and then all of this works really nicely. And like I said, I really love this little moment here. I really like also how there's like a weird deformation as they fit through this narrow little spot in the neck of the potion bottle here. It's very cool. Lots of good stuff. Okay, I'm going to summon. Here it comes. gonna try this one.
And try this again. Animation Bingo God, are you there? Can you come to the office, please? This sounds a bit more like a school intercom, doesn't it? Did I do it? Animation Bingo God? Oh, there she is.
I didn't beat up anybody in the schoolyard. I admit nothing. Okay, so for this one, we're gonna be calling.
Likely story.
We're gonna be calling Appeal. Really nice feeling on that leap into the glass bottle. But also the note for bad spacing when he leaps off and losing that momentum. So that's what we got. Also, I think what we're going to do is rather than creating a new bingo card, we're just going to go with the one that we have since we have 2 shots left. Because if we start a new one now, I don't think anybody's going to be getting any bingos. So
Okay, fair enough.
hang on to your cards, people.
Good. Okay. We already had a couple bingos, so we probably don't need to go and have too many different calls on the remaining 2 animations anyways. So
Roger that.
Good. Okay, in the puff of smoke, yet again, she disappears until she is summoned once again. Next one up is Junior's DXZ, another solo entry.
All right.
Feels like another one that scope became a bit of a problem in my mind. Like there's a lot of stuff that you're trying to tell here, and you didn't quite have enough time to properly tell it in many cases. I mean, up to now it makes sense to me. I get it. There's some characters showing up and it's kind of scary, and then he goes for some potion.
Find something to.
And then the
help with the
punchline
situation.
Yeah. The punchline really kind of feels like I don't understand what happens. I guess that's the big mace object that character has, and
So does that mean the bad guy won?
I think so.
Okay.
See, he's got this big,
it's
big mace on
that's
the
the
end.
mace. Okay.
So I think that's what that shape was. But you can see the fact I'm guessing means that it's not super clear. Okay, I'll start this one off.
It also,
you go actually, because I went first last
time. It was just another question about what happens, because it seems like our main character disappears beneath the frame before this thing comes in.
Yeah, like
so I just wasn't sure what.
Yeah,
was he ducking for cover, or did the potion kill him before the attack, or I'm just not sure what exactly happened there.
Yeah. Because you're not saying it specifically, right? Like there's nothing in here that says a clear thing. I see a character moving off screen south, and I see some object show up in one frame that I've only seen once kind of from afar. And so I'm kind of, we're trying to reconstruct things based on the information. And the first time I saw this, I needed to see it multiple times before I could put it together. So it needs to be like, again, going back to this idea of have a message. Understand what the message of that scene is. What is the purpose of that scene? What do you need to communicate? Sometimes it could just be an emotion. Sometimes it needs to be a physical thing that happens that we need to understand. It doesn't matter as long as you understand what that shot is for. Like a shot, if you don't know what the shot's for, then it's not important. Don't have it in there. Get rid of it. And that of course might lead to other problems because maybe you did need it, you just didn't know what it was for. The idea is you need to have an understanding of the story, and those stories translate into visual pieces, and each one of those visual pieces chronologically tell that story. And if you find yourself with a shot in there that really doesn't fit into that narrative, then you're probably better off without it. And if it does need to be there, make sure that it's telling the story that you needed to tell. Otherwise, the story will become confusing for sure.
A good way to do that is to just try really quickly storyboarding stuff, and it doesn't have to be clear storyboarding. If it's only for you, just do thumbnails that only you understand. But if you're saying like, okay, now I'm going to show a close-up of this character, and then next I go to a close-up of the potion, for example, just randomly, and then I go to this other shot. As you keep playing that back in your head, do you need that shot in there? Do you need that next shot in there? What's the simplest way to tell the story? Could you combine those 2 shots into one shot so you get the same message across? Instead of 2 shots, you could use 1 shot to do it. those sorts of things, and it takes a lot less time than playing around in Maya.
Absolutely. Yeah, figure it out like in sketch form is cheap, as opposed to taking the time to stage these things out. You know, if you have lots of time, then previs is a good way to do it instead of storyboarding. I mean, especially if you can do that quickly, but it does take more time than a drawing will ever take. So I agree. Always try to translate. And this, you know, and to be fair, I mean, a lot of people that entered this particular competition, they have little animation experience to begin with. And to then assume that you also have experience telling a story visually, that's a whole other skill. Like this idea of boarding, like, I mean, I think it's an important skill for animators to learn, even if they don't become storyboard artists. To be able to interpret a storyboard, I think is really, really, really important, because you're going to probably encounter them at some point. So spend some time learning the visual sort of like language of a storyboard so that you can know how to interpret them. And maybe, who knows, maybe you'll actually take a shining to it, and you're going to, next thing you know, you're going to start sketching out your own stories and telling really great ones and knowing how to use a camera. It's going to, that journey will be a long one, possibly even a lifelong one. There's lots of great books out there. I think last time I mentioned the one that I have that I like the most, that I think is directed specifically animators, is a book by Don Bluth called The Art of Storyboarding. It's a very good book that tells pretty much all the main things you need to know, and there's so many more. If that interests you and you like it, you're hungry for more, then there's a whole world of books out there. You find, you know, you can go ahead and ask me that offline, and I'll give you a whole list of the books I have on the subject matter.
Totally. A complete aside from that, but about that same topic, I remember being at a talk from Dean DeBlois, from who wrote and directed Mulan and How to Train Your Dragon with Chris Sanders.
Yeah.
And he had said that when he was like in college or something, or maybe it was just after, he took sequences of movies that he really liked. And then he would draw the first frame and the last frame of every shot in that sequence to see how the directors were cutting from one thing to the next, or how they were telling that story. And I thought that was a really interesting exercise to do, and a really cool thing that stuck with me.
It's similar to like telling people to like draw from life, you know, like to do life drawing. It's the same thing. It's like the mental process of putting, like, just absorbing information and then committing to it on paper yourself. It sinks in a little bit better by doing that first and last frame. Guaranteed that would be, it's a way of studying. Like, you know, like when you studied for exams in school, some of you might be still in school and you have to study for your exams. It's a bit of a distant memory for me, but everyone has different techniques, and some of those techniques would be writing keywords on little flashcards that would, and then you could use those to sort of help try to memorize some of these keywords that help unlock a bunch of information that's in the back of your brain somewhere. I think that's why that worked for them. It's just by literally observing and redoing and taking mental visual notes. It would sink in. You'd start to see patterns over time. It's a way of like learning through osmosis these techniques and these storytelling sort of methodologies that these obviously masterful directors are using, and they didn't learn those overnight. These directors like Steven Spielberg didn't just show up on the scene one day. He had been in film school, and he cut his teeth on much smaller projects, and eventually he became the icon that he is now, right? Although I would say that I feel like he peaked a long time ago, if I want to be completely honest. I mean, I still like his films, but his films from back in the day, like when he was making movies like Jaws, that was him in his prime. In his prime. Okay, so let me just see, like, one more thing I wanted to say here before we move on is, again, this idea of synergy is going to encroach on the conversation. If you take a look here, I want you to notice how parts of the body are moving completely independently of other parts that should be also moving in support of said other body parts. So let's just scrub through here. So here you see the only thing moving is the two arms. There's a little bit of movement on the mouth here, right there, right as the arm starts to come up. Notice there's a big arcing back here. Zero movement on the hips. The hips should be moving forward here in order to support the fact that all the weight is going backwards here. So the bottom half of the body needs to compensate. Also, it gets a bit more complicated, like here, where there's some interesting body mechanics happening, where the character wants to just turn here, but for some reason the weight shifts backwards, when in reality it should probably be shifting towards us to take the weight off, because what the character wants to do is step towards the window, but there's an interesting choice to shift the weight off of both of the feet. Usually when we're shifting our weight around, we're always shifting our weight onto one of the feet so the other foot can come up off of the ground and replant in order to then allow me to reposition my body. So when you're doing the weight shifting, always think you should be favoring a foot that's on the ground. Here, you're actually favoring no feet. You're actually favoring emptiness, which is a recipe for the character looking completely off balance. Then over here, if I want to skip ahead a little bit, there, like this moment right here, there's some really kind of awkward things that are going on with regards to, like, I think it's cool that, I don't know if this was intentional, that you're trying to break the rules a little bit and have the character do this noodly thing with their upper body. But it feels like it kind of comes out of nowhere, to be honest. Like I don't see you do that anywhere else. I don't see anything backing it up, make me feel like this character has some sort of like, Mr. Fantastic ability where they're able to like literally deform their body. So I'm left thinking that this was just maybe a misunderstanding and not really understanding how to get something like this, where a character wants to kind of feel like they're just barely peering around a corner. The lower leg looks like it's one character, or sorry, the lower body, and the upper body looks like a completely different character because they go literally in opposite directions. So again, unifying those body parts and making sure that they're all doing it together. You might benefit from really getting some good video reference and breaking it down. Go ahead.
And I just went synergy.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But I do want to give credit to this. I love this acting choice of swirling the cup before drinking it. I think that's really cool and really fun, and I wanted to point that out and give credit where it's due. That's a fun, specific acting choice. That I really appreciated. Yeah,
I definitely agree. I don't know what happened. Why did it get on paused? I must have hit it by accident. So the speaking of good stuff, I mean, the cool thing is that you set it up nicely. Characters just hanging out, doing his little thing, and then suddenly there's like this shake. I personally think I would have waited for the turn after the shake, because it would have been a nice moment where the shaking's happening and it's like, what? And then there's a turn towards the window, like, what's that? Because you do it before, it feels a little bit unmotivated, but I do like the setup all the same. Like it's a simple scenario where a character's just hanging out. I don't know why he's hanging in front of a bunch of interesting potions, but he is. And then, there's this POV shot, which is kind of nice. This idea, speaking of shark, we don't see the character that, like, I like the way you take a while to reveal it by not showing us right away. It makes us feel like, oh no, like it's like the classic dun like we see maybe from the shark's point of view, but because you never get to see the shark until the very end of the movie, you're really teasing the audience, which is always a nice thing to do dramatically. Gets them kind of on edge. And this whole idea of him not really being almost too scared to look out the window, maybe a different camera angle would have been better. Just so, like, I would have liked to see the reverse angle of the eyes just coming up over the windowsill a little bit, just to sort of sell that a little bit, rather than always seeing it from behind. Because audience is going to typically want to see the eyes of the character. What's the eye character thinking and feeling? And it's sometimes a little bit hard to get that only from the body mechanics alone. So lots of interesting notes there, I think, that you can dig into for sure. Okay, here it comes. I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit here this time. This one's going to be animation god. Oh, wait. Animation god. I'm trying to do robot. It's not working. Oh, that's because I hit the wrong button. That's better. Animation bingo god, are you there? Can you understand this? Is it too distorted? No, it looks like it worked.
You called?
Yeah. The robot called you.
Yes, he did. For this one, we're only going to be calling one for just lack of weight. There were a bunch of other points that you guys talked about, good and critical, but we don't have calls for that. But this also might be a good time that for anybody catching up, on the left-hand side, this is what we've called so far.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
I don't know if people can read those, so...
We do this.
Oh, yeah.
Can I do that? Oh, yeah, nice one. Good.
So, yeah, maybe we just give people, like, a minute or two just to look over the list.
Yeah, sure. Because you might have started in the middle of this and maybe didn't get some of the older calls, so now's a chance to get caught up on your bingo card.
Yep.
And I forgot I loaded my little sound panel up for, like, when I one of my stupid jokes just goes flat, I could do one of these. The classic cricket sound.
But do
It was a
you
little
have
quiet,
wrist
but I
shot?
Oh,
see
it
what
needs,
you're
yeah, it
doing.
needs to be a little bit more. It's funny. Try to look for the classic cricket sound, like a singular cricket, like chirp, chirp, chirp. It was so hard to find. I was looking at all these free sound effect sites, and it was like nobody. I'm on a quest. I'm on a quest for the perfect cricket sound. If you find one, send it to me.
Well, I was gonna say Ben Rush can actually do that with his mouth somehow.
No
He
way.
can make a perfect cricket noise, which is amazing in real life when a joke falls flat, or in a meeting when it's just silence. He can do that.
Break
and
that
also,
tension
most
with a
people
good-
don't know that it's him. So like, what? Where?
Yeah,
who
like
did that?
where did cricket get in here? I knew a guy from high school. He could do sound effects so well. He was able to do he could make the sound of a police siren. Like I swear to you, it was so perfect. I don't even know how he did it. Like, how do people like beatboxers, man? Some of the noises that come out of their mouths, I'm like, how is that even? Doesn't even make any sense.
Impressive.
Yep. Okay, so I think we're good. We can move forward.
Yeah, we're good to go.
So we're on the last one, everybody. So we're gonna wrap things up after this. So good luck on anybody who's on the verge of a bingo. Hopefully you're gonna get one right now.
Cool. All right, this is from R.I.P. Daft Punk.
Yeah.
A solo.
It was like right when they announced they were breaking up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still
All right, here we go.
Still sad about that. Fart jokes. They'll always make me laugh. I like how it loops.
Oh, does it? I didn't even catch that.
Well,
That's awesome.
it won't pop at the end. It'll just go right back into it. I'm pretty sure because he kind of picks himself up from a slouch at the end. I might be wrong. Let me see.
Yeah, it works pretty well.
It's cool.
That's fun. There's a lot of cool stuff in this one. Usually I'm not a big fan of the fart jokes and stuff. I mean, I make them in real life, but animating a fart joke is not super entertaining to me.
Yeah.
But I think this works pretty well, and there's so much to love about this one. I love that pose. That pose is fantastic.
Yeah, it really is.
This is awesome. It's so clean and clear, and yeah, that's great. Got so much. There's this nice triangle. There's awesome support, asymmetry. This is super clear coming in here.
Yeah,
that's awesome, and it's a great reversal from this, which is kind of doing the opposite thing. There's so much cool stuff in this.
Contrast between poses.
Yeah, and the bounciness.
Yeah,
I mean, it's excessive, but it's excessive in a fun way that works for this character. That it's like jelly. Right.
Yeah, he's almost like a flour sack character almost.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
That's cool.
He does look like Jello. It's true. Like I love the jiggle that you get, like those forces cascading through the character and the way that they resonate and they overlap really gives that nice feeling of like weight, but like a very jiggly weight. A lot of character.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and the shooting star I love too. Small, tiny little detail that is really fun. Start the timer, by the way.
Oh yeah, good idea. So I would say
no, he did hiccups and then he farts.
Oh,
right?
That's what that is. But
it's
sure it's not two farts though? No, it's burp burp. You hiccup and then burp burp.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I feel like that's what it was. Ready? Here, wait for it. So weird.
I hear hiccup fart. I don't know.
You don't hear the two farts? Oh man. Interesting.
I don't know.
Burp, burp.
I just hear one.
Who hears two farts and who hears one? Animator versus animator. Who's gonna win?
You hear the hiccup though, right? So
I hear hiccup, and then I hear
and then
two
fart.
distinct farts right close to one another. It's like a hic, fart, fart. Just that one hiccup and one fart. That's all you hear. Really?
That's all. I just hear hiccup fart.
Jesus,
but this is also a wonderful, conversation that's filling some excellent sentences. Like the kitty drops a number of potions. I hear hiccup fart, and but you hear hiccup fart.
It. No, this is definitely. He's got a clear hiccup fart recipe. I don't know what you're talking about. You people in the hiccup fart camp can go kiss it because it's totally not what's happening. One thing I'll notice. Quick shout out to a really clever solution. Rather than wasting time, because you don't have a lot, You only had 24 hours. I love just the simple solution of just like this translucent like cylinder that's giving me the feeling that it's liquid pouring down his throat. And I mean, part of that only works with the staging, right? Because by inverting the bottle so quickly like this, it was like it doesn't really have time to follow it before.
Oh yeah, that
so
cylinder just extends.
That's it.
It works
like,
really well.
It's not perfect, but it 100% is effective with this particular treatment. And with the little time you had, it's 100% forgivable if it wasn't perfect. It gets the job done, and that's the key. Is like asking yourself, and it's funny too, because I often tell animators that, you know, effects can be difficult if you want to try to really do it for real. But like if you're putting something on a demo reel or you're trying to pitch something to your team, like sometimes just having some skills on how to come up with like proxy effects like this can go a really long way to sell the idea. Like this, for instance, it adds so much to it, in my opinion, that like I really get the feeling that he's just downing it. It's just pouring directly down his mouth and into his belly. And I just think that that's part of the fun of this animation. So just coming up with clever solutions like this is always a good thing. One thing I would say is I had a note here on the landing. No. Well, yeah, I remember what it was. So, I like how, like, so this landing is nice. There's all this kind of, the whole character, just the feet come off the ground, so that just it's pure gravity here. I feel it's a little soft. Like I felt like they get floated a little bit. I didn't see a distinct change. Like his movement down towards the ground here, it doesn't change when both feet come off the ground. I would have liked to feel like it accelerates quite a bit because now it's all just gravity. There's nothing supporting that weight. Just a little bit of a change in the curve that's slight that makes it feel like there is a real fall there and then a landing, which would also better support all of the really heavy upper body thing. I really don't feel like it was supported properly with a really hard, crisp collision with the ground. If anything, actually, it feels kind of like. Yeah, like exactly. It doesn't really even feel like it speeds up, where it feels like it should probably exponentially speed up a little bit towards the ground to really feel like gravity was taking over. The other thing I would say is the landing here. I love how it cascades out through like the rest of the body and it ripples out like this. But I would have figured that it would have like the feet here. The feet, interestingly, feel unaffected. See the feet, they just sort of correct slowly, where they would probably also kind of jiggle around and kind of do something similar to what the upper body is doing. That should radiate outwards down the arms and the shoulders, but also the feet themselves. So just finding a way of connecting all the little bits would be nice.
Yeah, that's good. Good stuff. I was also noticing as you were flipping through, I really like how like the butt has already contacted here.
Yeah.
And then this is way up here and it ends down here that it's collapsing so much and maintaining the volume because it pushes out on the sides in order to account for that, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's another, like, so going back to the idea of pushing out, that force itself would also probably have an effect on those legs and the feet, as they would, like, you know, like that flex would probably, I just feel like they would have some sort of physical effect. This idea of cause and effect with these volumes interacting with one another is what would take this whole thing to a whole other level of excellence. I don't.
There's some. We're gonna have to talk about this part again, though. But the something about the animation of this part doesn't flow well to me. I think it's that he sits all the way up and then squashes down and then lifts up, and I think that could be simplified. Like maybe it's the hiccup actually causes him to bounce up into the air. Like the hiccup. Yeah, lifts him and then he farts.
Or the other way, or
quite a conversation, but yeah.
You could also make it so that it was an intentional beat there, where it's sort of like a what, and then a fart. Like if you sold it like there were clear beats. Right now, they almost feel like they're overlapping together and they almost kind of collide rather than having. Because I mean, I think you should make them really like truly like you said, like if he's slouched and it's actually the jump up is from that force of the actual hiccup that wakes him up, and then on the landing, then the fart makes him almost do a double jump or something. Like I agree. Like they kind of feel like they're. Yeah, like this movement right here. Not to mention that it's also, if you want to get technical, it's like it's very slidey here. Like, which again, you could have used the hiccup as the force that would have had him pop up and then land in a more upright position to then fart. Yeah, I think it's probably what you were probably saying.
Yeah.
This
Well,
idea
I
of
mean, a slightly
using it.
different solution for but that idea, it's a different solution for the same problem.
Yeah. It's just like it was almost like a missed opportunity to use the hiccup and or the fart as a force to get them up in the air, rather than that forcing kind of coming out of nowhere and not being anchored to anything that's audible. Those things are happening, so you might as well use them.
Yeah.
I feel like there was one other thing I want to say. Oh, I remember. It's just worth mentioning that I don't know what it is. It's funny. Like at first I was sort of like, what's with the flying saucer? And then the more I watch it, the more I like it. It's almost like the flying saucer was coming in to like observe this creature, and then then it starts farting. It's like, nope, and it just leaves. Like it's something. It almost feels like a little fly that starts coming into the shot, and it doesn't really.
That's
have a
how I
real purpose
interpret it
there.
as well.
Yeah. It's funny. Like it seems like it's a funny, a random kind of funny. Like you almost expect that the flying saucer was going to do something, but it doesn't. It was just sort of like it was just there to witness the fart. I don't know. It's funny.
And then one other quick thing, I like how as he falls asleep, it starts to push the bottle over, but not quite enough. And then when he hiccups, it goes back to being upright. And of course, bonus points for making it loop. And he's forever in this cycle of sleeping and drinking and hiccuping and farting.
Yeah, he's in some sort of like looks to be some sort of Minecraft world.
It seems that way.
Okay, well, I guess we're gonna summon our animation bingo god for one final time this evening. Let's do it. We try to do something crazy.
That's like, that wasn't even legible. Now you can hear me. Bingo god, please show yourself.
So just checking, this is the part of the stream that's going on the Agora community website, right?
Without a doubt.
Yes.
Load it up with as many fart parts as we can. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right.
More fart
So
jokes, the better.
final calls that we've got, and this will be the final calls for the night, folks. Are dynamic poses and soft contacts, and we don't have a tile called hiccup fart fart, but if we did, we would call it.
A note for next time.
Fix it in post.
Yeah, we should officially add fart jokes to the list of bingo terms. You know that it's going to come up. You know it. Okay, so that wraps things up. I think obviously we're going to try to stick around for a couple minutes to just whatever, deal with any bingos that might have been happening there at the end. But other than that, once we have that sorted, we'll end the stream. Jacob, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's always
of course,
a pleasure
it was
to
a lot
have
of
you
fun.
Here. Just to kind of talk animation and nerd out a little bit and talk about fart jokes and how to appropriately use a fart joke for maximum effect. The ins and outs and the do's and don'ts of fart jokes in the animation world. And we'll have to
Better out than in, right?
We should do, yeah, exactly. And there's a whole extra series there too. That plus the lip sync of do you or do you not agree with the 2 frames first, or the 2 frame advance on audio? It's a good one. It's funny because I've never heard anyone really break it down in such terms like that before. Like that, there's clearly this school of thought that you're like, you know what? It almost feels like a Richard Williams moment. Remember when Richard Williams put out his book and he was like, there was that clash between him and Preston Blair about like contact frames, and he was like, look, I don't want to be a jerk, but like, I mean, Preston Blair, thank you for all the work you've done over the years, but sorry, buddy, I don't agree. And then there was like an actual exchange between the two of them for a while. It was actually pretty cool. But
I don't remember that.
Yeah. I went to a couple of his talks. I think maybe those things only showed up in the talks where he was retroactively talking a little bit about kind of behind the scenes on the writing of that book. But I'm really happy I got to see him speak a couple times, because he's no longer with us, unfortunately, and he had so much to say about animation. Richard Williams did. Okay, so yes, thank you, Jacob. Thank you very much. I will, this will put to bed probably the bingo, animation bingo for now, until we have another big event where we have to dig through things. Maybe maybe we'll bring it back. Maybe we'll change it up and not do bingo, but do something else. We'll see. Animation hangman. Maybe we'll do the next one. I don't know. So cheers, dude. See you on the next one, man. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So, what do we have here? Do we have any last bingos? Anybody? I wasn't paying attention. We did have a bingo. So Jim Co Pro looks like he's calling out a bingo. Oh, confirmed. Nice. Were there any other ones, or is this it? Do we have any double bingos tonight? That's the only that I having not being the one who's burdened with figuring out all the bingo is awesome, because I can worry about just making fart jokes instead of talking about bingo. But the disadvantage is I have no idea who actually made the bingo calls. Are we done? Close to double. Ah, man. So close yet so far away. One last thing I'm going to talk about here while things are wrapping up is I promised last time that there would be I would reach out and talk about a competition that I wanted to do with regards to the bingo shirts and sticker designs. So look out for that, probably either later this week. Well, later this week, tomorrow's Friday. So maybe this weekend or early next week. I'm going to be putting out some official announcement on this. It'll probably hit the social channels, I would imagine. We're going to try to echo this so everyone hears about it. You don't need to have been a competitor in the 24-hour challenge to compete in the contest for the design, but I'm going to put out it'll be an announcement with regards to the constraints or the sort of the conditions of the competition, so that there's kind of build a bit of a sandbox. So people are I'm looking for the community to come up with a cool animation bingo design, because now animation bingo is a thing. So you'll depict an animation bingo. What does the animation bingo god look like in its true form? That could be maybe subject of the design, or maybe you'll pick like maybe it'll incorporate some of your favorite animation bingo personalities in caricature form. Anyways, keep an eye open. We'll have an announcement out there soon, and the winner of that contest will get their designs officially minted as the official shirt and sticker designs that will get sent out to the winners. So more on that very, very soon. Okay, so I guess we're good, right? She is unknowable, unseeable, eldritch being. I like that. I agree. I think it's almost like it would be an insult to her magnificence to even try to depict her in physical form. She's just too. It's you just can't. I like it. Unseeable, eldritch being. Kind of reminds me of a dragon. Maybe it's kind of dragon-like. Okay, so that's it for tonight. We will see you again on, oh man, I don't even remember. I think is it Friday? It's Friday and then Sunday, I think. Is that not right? Who knows the schedule better than me? I'm going to check one sec. Yeah, so tomorrow, and then I believe it's Sunday is the next one. It is. So we got oops. It's the Pratt Brothers tomorrow night with me, and then on Sunday it's JD and Sir Wade. So if you're here tonight and you haven't had your animation reviewed yet, then so it's going to be at the end of the list. Just a quick note that there was at least one animation that had some copyrighted music in it. I believe what we're going to do is we're going to reach out to you directly, and because we don't want to put it on air, because we don't want to get a copyright strike against the Twitch channel or the YouTube channel. So what we will probably do is probably me or somebody will reach out to you and just be offering you a kind of a quick one-on-one review, or maybe I'll actually review it and put the video out for everyone. That's probably what I'll do. I'll probably just do review it, put a bunch of notes together on that one, and then offer it on the library as sort of like a one-off review. That way I don't want you to be left out just because you had some copyrighted music, because we didn't really have any specific rules on that. We kind of let that slide. So if you find yourself at the very end and we've gone through all of these animation bingos and your stuff didn't get called out, that's probably why. And otherwise, let us know if we somehow missed you, and reach out to us, and we'll make sure that maybe somehow it got slipped through the cracks or whatever. But the whole intention was to make sure that everyone got some feedback. So we don't want anybody to get left out in the cold there. Okay, so good night to everyone. See you hopefully tomorrow evening with the Pratt Brothers, and keep animated. Talk to you guys soon. Cheers.